Hello and welcome back to BannerKings, and we're here at Epicrotia. Now, obviously, this is going to be a pretty tough one. We don't have any additional forces with me. I don't have any other, vassals in my army, and I'm trying the new strategy. Now, this is not advised in any way, shape, or form. In my opinion, this is actually not going to work. I think this is going to be too premature. I think we're going to be going in there. There's going to be 2 catapults against us. I couldn't get the battering ram built before the 2 were completed, which really makes things much, much harder than they have to be. Because these 2 catapults are absolutely going to destroy the battering ram, in my opinion. But that is very much dependent on if we can get inside before. Because here's the thing, if the catapults are focusing on the battering ram, they're not going to be focusing on our troops, which is maybe a partial reason why this strategy might actually be okay, It might actually be alright. Anyway, let's see how we go. It's going to be a bit harsh, and if it does look like I'm going to be losing here, we're going to retreat straight away. Because generally testing these kinds of things out, because let's face it, this is definitely a test. This is not something that I have done in a long time. There was only one other time where I actually did something like this, and well, at that point there was only 1 catapult, so you got to bear that in mind. Otherwise, let's get up here and see what we could do. Now, these guys are obviously going to try to push the ladder away. Let's see if I can get them. Okay, nice. We're not actually killing ourselves with this for some reason. Why am I not killing myself with the firebomb? I don't actually know. That's kind of strange. I would have expected to die from this really, really easily, but apparently not. And there you go. We made it. We we made it onto the battlements. One thing you got to know, though, and this is something that a couple of people have been saying things about. Well, someone, I think one person actually said something. Is that the firebombs are really strong, and yeah, sure, I would not, I'm not gonna say that they're not strong. I'm just gonna say that in general, the only reason why we have so many of them, because usually we would have about 15 of these if I did not have all of these stack increasing perks. I think the stack increases are really what is making them so effective here, because I would not be able to deal with so many enemies if I had 15 of these in comparison to having 27. We literally almost have double the amount than we're supposed to, just because of the way that it interacts with the perks in the throwing skill tree. And that actually does make a pretty amazing difference, obviously. It does make a pretty amazing difference. The thing is, though, and this is obviously something to bear in mind here, do we talk about balance? Do we talk about the balancing in regards to this particular weapon type? Because if we talk about the balancing and we think about, hey, how are we going to actually make this not a cakewalk, as it were? But that's the thing. I had to find these things, obviously. Bear in mind that we have a pretty significant amount of money now, and they do cost around 40,000 to purchase, which is a sizable amount for the early game. So obviously you're not going to have these early game. It's going to be pretty hard to find these things, and they're not that common. Yeah, they are a little bit common. You can find them in quite a few marketplaces, but as I say, they are quite expensive. So that's obviously a bit of an issue. But, basically we're talking about the AoE, right? We're talking about the area of effect in regards to their explosive nature and how overpowered or not are they. And yeah, sure, they're definitely strong, absolutely, but the problem arises here. And now this is the thing, I don't have a problem with them being like this, the current iteration of them. I think that this is perfectly fine because I've gone through the trouble of unequipping my shield. I literally do not have a shield as a result of having a couple of extra firebombs and everything. But the thing is, if you were to make them less powerful, let's say that, I don't know, let's say that they do less damage. I mean, obviously, explosive pots, they should be doing sizable amounts of damage, in my opinion. Because that's what they're all about. You are supposed to have explosiveness at your fingertips. They are not supposed to be these, needles that you throw at your opponent. They are supposed to be damaging. You are supposed to do massive damage with these things. Because that's the nature of a, grenade type weapon, right? You're supposed to do massive damage. If this was a modern setting, I'd be throwing grenades, and this would basically be the exact same thing, pretty much. Although a grenade would probably have a much larger radius due to modern technology. But what I'm saying is, if we were to make this lower in regards to AoE, if the developers were to make it lower, then it would be really kind of useless. You know what I mean? The area of effect would be so much less. And am I going to die? No. Ooh, look at that. We actually did something. A little bit of a jump. There. But yeah, if we were to make that, or should we say, if they were to make that lower damage or lower area of effect, I don't think it would really be used that much. I don't know, because that's the thing. As you can no doubt tell, in previous episodes as well, not just this one, but in previous episodes too, there are a number of cases that you've seen me use these, you've seen me use the fire pots, and I have only killed about 2 or 3 people. And I say only because, let's face it, killing 2 or 3 with one attack is obviously pretty good. But what I'm saying is you have the potential for so many more, right? You have the potential for so many more. However, the main issue is if you were to reduce their radius, you would then be killing basically one person with one of these uses. If we have the similar situation where I just killed 2 or 3 with the current iteration of the firebombs. If you see what I mean, if you follow me right now. Because I may not be explaining it very simply, but let's just say that in general, in the same situation that I killed 2 to 3 with the current iteration, if I were to reduce, let's just say that if the developer were to reduce the area of effect, it would then make it so that I would probably only kill 1, maybe 2 people in those same situations. And I think that is probably unacceptable for an explosive weapon. Obviously, there are a number of other things that I could talk about. For example, the damage output. But then you also have to think, well, from a realistic perspective, how much damage do you think these fire pots should do in a realistic situation, in a realistic environment? You think someone's going to get hit by this in a realistic situation? Someone's going to get hit by a grenade, basically. I mean, that's what it pretty much is. And are they going to live? Are they going to live from that? Yeah, sure. Some people definitely will. Absolutely. Some people definitely will. But on the whole, if you take a direct hit and you are in the center of the explosion, that is goodbye. That is basically goodbye at that point. So that in general kind of precludes the idea of reducing the damage that the fire pots deal, because I don't think it should be. I don't think the damage should be reduced. I mean, yeah, sure, okay, look at this. I killed 227 of the enemy's forces, but as I have mentioned quite often, actually, after we had started using these, I actually kind of hoped that maybe my comments surrounding that would have, shall we say, assuaged some fears about how strong these weapons actually may be. Because the thing is, the only reason why we're able to win this battle is not because I've killed 227. That is nowhere near the reason. The only reason we were able to do this is because I was able to clear an entire wall of enemies. And I'm pretty sure they had about, I don't know, 30 to 40 people there. And that's pretty much it. So basically I could clear that wall with 3 or 4 uses of a firebomb, maybe 3 or 4 uses. I mean, you can go back in this very video and you can actually see if you want to, you know, if you care about it that much. And you can see just how many we used to clear the wall initially. But that is, in my opinion at least, the main reason why we're able to do so much damage in the inner workings of the keep. Because without us clearing that battlement, we are stuck in an almost infinite loop of bottleneck, bottleneck, bottleneck. And sure, there are going to be some exceptions to that fact, because obviously my forces were actually able to clear the other wall section without my assistance, which is very, very impressive of them. Anyway, as you can see, we did actually manage to achieve victory here. Look at that. We took 50 deaths, 109 unconsciousness. But let me actually just see here. I want to see if they had any Cataphractos units or anything that is super, super high tier. Because, no, they did not. Okay. Yeah, so that basically just puts paid to that, because they have literally nothing in that regard. They have a lot of tier 3, a lot of tier 4, many tier 1s and tier 2s and everything, and that's basically it. And that's the reason why we were able to actually do that. As I say, it's all about the tactic, it's all about the strategy when it comes to actually clearing out certain areas of the defense. And that's all there is to it. I think, actually, you know what? I'm gonna try it out, okay? I'm actually gonna test it just so that I can kind of see whether I'm actually correct about that, because I want to see, for my own experience, you know, for my own knowledge and so on and so forth, I want to see whether that is indeed the case. Because if not, then I'm just spouting garbage, and I'd rather not do that. So let's actually just see whether that actually happens. So we're just going to sell everything that we can here. Let me see, sell that as well. There we go. Going to get 73,000. It's actually quite funny that towns basically give you pretty much no loot in comparison to castles. But that's a discussion for another day. And I'm just going to be selling every single one of these guys. Thank you very much. Yeah, these peltasts, there was a lot of these guys in the militia there. And as you can see, these are tier 3. So they're pretty easy for us to eliminate. And we can just get rid of all of these. I'm probably going to keep the rest. We've got 110 prisoners. That's actually a lot. Maybe I wanna sell those, actually, you know, all things considered. Maybe it would be a better idea for me to sell them. But as it stands, I don't really want to. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna make my way over to the nearby castle, because obviously there is gonna be a castle that I can go to. And this castle is then going to have a little bit of an experiment played upon it. And the experiment is going to be this. I will not build anything, okay? I will not build a battering ram or a siege tower or any ranged siege whatsoever. And we are going to do a little bit of a test. And the test is going to be this. We're going to go in with nothing. I'm going to clear the walls with less than 5 explosive explosive projectiles. And then we're gonna try and see how many we can use without having, well, shall we say, without using too many. So I'm not going to use 27. I'm not going to use all of what I have, even though for me personally, I think that I should be able to, because that's what I've spec'd into. I mean, obviously I've taken all of these, you know, very specific perks to give me those extra fire pots because I think it's fun. But just for science, okay? Just for science. Now, strong legs and strong arms. Now, these are both relatively decent perks. I have said in the past that strong arms is just terrible. And I'm going to say it again. I think it is actually just terrible from a standard position. But this is very situational. If you're going to have a number of troops that have throwing skill, then by all means, go for strong arms. This is going to be a pretty good, pretty good thing to add to your repertoire. However, if you're like me and you like to do a little bit of acrobatics and you like to fall off places, randomly by mistake sometimes, then you may want to go for strong legs instead. And from my perspective right now, I'm probably going to be taking strong legs just because I personally value my survivability above other things. So otherwise, apart from that, I'm thinking, what do I do with my focus point? Do I want to invest a focus point? Can I not do that? I'm not actually a mercenary right now, am I? I'm not actually a mercenary right now, so maybe I should do something different. Maybe I should be a commander, or what should I actually do right now? Because it doesn't seem to allow me to invest any focus points in this, as you can see. Because look, there is actually no point in me even being a mercenary at this point in time, because we are actually not a mercenary and we're not earning anything from being a mercenary. So basically I should try to do something else. So what should I do? Because I'm not a smith. I guess I could do commander. That's leadership and tactics. What's my tactics skill like? My tactics skill is absolutely terrible. I could do this, which is leadership and lordship. 1 knight less is counted towards vassal limit. Trade penalty increased by 20%. No thanks. No, I would prefer not that. Okay, what about... Oh dear. What about commander then? Party supplies build up at a 25% slower rate. Influence gain reduced by 15% other than battle reward. What does that actually mean? Duration of disorganized state reduced by 10%. As army leader, your cohesion loss is 12% slower. 25... What? That is such a... This is such a weird... This is such a weird thing. Yeah, okay. This is kind of strange because you can already see the basic version of Commander reduces your influence gain by 15%. But then when you get the highest level of the focus point thing, you get 25% increase influence from winning battles. And your party size is increased by 8%. That's a bit of a weird... Why is it 8%? Why isn't it 10% or 5%? Or what's going on with the 8%? I don't know. Anyway, I don't really like this one. So let's see. What else can we actually go for here? We may, in fact... Is there a throwing weapon one? It doesn't seem like it. We could go for Gladiator. Combat experience in tournaments increased by 200%. Wow, that is something that we should have taken a long time ago. What about Cataphract? Increase renown from victories by 12%. But non-cavalry units need 25% more experience to upgrade. There's a lot of reasons why we may not want to take any of these things. What about Outlaw? Battle troops 10% faster on the map. Randomly lose relations with heroes. Okay. Yeah. All of this is not looking particularly good. Party expenses are 30% cheaper during sieges. Settlements of different culture have 10% more autonomy. What else do we get? Get a pre-built ballista as attacker during the siege. Damage to walls increased by 10%. Ranged infantry deals 15% more damage in siege siege simulations. Camp preparation is 20% faster. That could be very, very impactful. Let's do it. I'm going to do it, okay? We're going to do this. This is, no offense, but I think that getting a pre-built ballista is probably one of the worst perks that we could ever get, because that's just going to give us a free casualty almost immediately. It's literally going to do that. That's all it's going to do, which is really quite sad, but that is indeed how it goes. Anyway, as I said, our experiment is going to be 0 siege equipment, and we're going to try to use as few firebombs as possible, hopefully less than 5, to be able to win this actual siege. That is the goal. That is the overarching goal here. So let's see. Who else? Who's actually good at this? Who's actually going to be good at this? I think probably this guy is probably going to be good. I think. I have no idea. But I'm just going to try to get as much charm skill as possible. Because if we can actually get to, what is it, 275 in charm? Or is it 300 now? I'm actually not entirely sure what it is. No, it's 275. We can get 5 influence per day, which no offense now, I don't even need that. You know? I don't even need that, so it's maybe not even necessary. One thing, though, I actually have to wait quite some time for my forces to recover. Alright, so as you can see, we've just started the siege camp. We've got our preparations all done. One thing that you need to realize, however, is the fact that I have a lot of engineering skill right now. And I think this is actually quite a little bit shocking, actually, because the enemy was able to build a catapult before we were even able to get our first preparations finished. Which, if you were to, you know, change the speed of the engineering in BannerKings to a slower variant, well, I can just say, I can just salute you and say good luck. Because that's pretty harsh. That is pretty harsh. Anyway, we're going to go straight on in here, and we're going to see how we do. As I said, less than 5 if we can. Otherwise, we're going to just do it for science, and we're going to see how few we can actually use while achieving victory. There's about 350 people in here, 400 maybe, 450, maybe a little bit more than that. And, oh, we're actually pretty close to the walls as well, so this is obviously going to make a slight bit of difference, a little bit of difference, and we're going to see how this goes. And should be pretty interesting. Hopefully they're not going to move this away for us. Okay, there we go. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. And there's 5. Okay, and that's basically cleared every single enemy out, and that's it. So, you know, all intents and purposes, what I could do now is I could start, you know, firing my bombs off over into that conglomeration of units as well. Because obviously, let's face it, any single bottleneck is going to be an absolute haven for any kind of explosive. It's really just going to make a huge difference. Or I could just, you know, stab people as they enter here if I wanted to. But obviously, if you look at it from, you know, a standard perspective of, oh yes, I should just throw this and then do that, you know, then it's obviously going to be a lot easier. But, you know, the firebombs are really going to make a huge difference. But you can see here I have eliminated 68 enemy troops, and that is basically going to be it. I don't think we are going to... I actually think this is a victory right away. I think this is a victory right away. I don't think I need to do anything else. And this is kind of what I wanted to try and test out. Because, as I said, the only reason why I would actually want to use firebombs to a greater degree is literally just to have fun. And to try to get experience. Try to level myself up a little bit more. And that's it. You know, that is actually it. And, yeah, funnily enough, that means that technically we wouldn't even need to have this many troops, right? I mean, not this many troops. We wouldn't need to have this many firebombs, you know, in essence. We could literally just, you know, get rid of pretty much every single one, with the exception of just having one stack or actually, yeah, just one stack, because I think I would have 9. Yeah, I would have 9 firebombs to use in one stack with my current perk selections. So that's pretty good, and I'm actually going to die here. I think. Or not? Oh, I got hit somehow from something. Did you see that? I actually got hit from somewhere. It was a thrown weapon or something like that. It was a thrown weapon by one of these guys, or did I get shot by that crossbow? I'm actually not entirely sure, but I got shot by something because I took 19 damage piercing in the arm, and the guy that I was fighting was using a mace, so he would have hit me for blunt damage. But I guess this is a pretty good estimation of whether we're actually going to achieve victory here. because all things considered, I think we're probably going to be fine. It just very much depends if we can actually clear out these battlements. As I said to you before, I'm not going to be using any additional bombs. We used 5 at the very beginning, which is the base version, by the way, of the fire pots. You can basically just use 5 and then clear out a wall. And that seems to have been a pretty decent thing to do. You can see here, though, however, that because of my non-influence, because of me not interfering in any more of the actual siege, we are in fact sustaining more casualties. So I suppose that is probably going to be the other thing that you may have to consider when taking into account how effective firebombs actually are. Because firebombs are they're definitely going to be really, really good and actually going to prevent injuries to your own forces a lot more than otherwise, because you're of course going to be eliminating a lot of the enemy, and they are going to then not be able to do damage to your own forces. Aha, so I've actually just been standing here, well, sitting here actually for the last, I don't even know how long, 2 minutes, 3 minutes or something like that, just watching our forces go back and forth like so. And they're doing this because there is a friend of ours, or a couple of friends actually, standing here. And I'm not entirely sure why my forces don't want to go in there. Also, why did the performance just take a huge hit? Did you see that? It was actually smooth as like nothing else beforehand. And now these guys are... well, now everything's choppy as hell. I don't actually know what's going on with that. Anyway, I'm just going to retreat because there isn't actually anything I can do. Let's just send our troops in, eliminate those guys, get the renown, get the influence and all that wonderful stuff, and then we can move on. But there you have it. That is a pretty successful experiment on our part. And that just goes to show that you can indeed do it with using less bombs. You don't need to kill over 200 people every single time. I just literally do it because I think it's fun, as I said before. And we did actually get some fire bombs as a reward for that particular attack, which is quite funny. Anyway, I'm actually just going to be waiting here for some time. We have so many injuries, and that's, again, as I say, I think the only added benefit of me using my firebombs even more is the fact that we do have less casualties, and it allows us to continue conquering things over and over again in comparison to having to relax for a little bit of time. I think that really makes a huge difference. And for me personally, I think that in general, in a war, now this is the thing, in a war situation, and I'm not even talking about realistically here, I'm just talking about in general, what is the most logical course of action when it comes to weaponry? Are you going to use every single thing at your disposal, or are you going, well, not obviously I'm not talking about massive, destructive power here. I'm not talking about things like that. I'm not talking about biological weapons or anything. I'm talking about in a realistic situation and small arms. I'm talking about small arms. I'm talking about things like that. I'm not talking about things that require a big red button to press. I'm not talking about those kinds of things, right? I'm talking about things like grenades and cannons and artillery and things like that. That's what I'm talking about. And that's the thing. Are you going to basically go, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to save all of my troops. Or should we say not all of my troops, but I'm not going to save, 100 of my troops by refraining from using this particular weapon. You know what I mean? From a realistic perspective. That's just my thought process on it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be. I'm wrong about a lot of things. So I don't know. But let me know. Let me know what you think, because from my perspective at the moment, I don't think firebombs are... I think they're very strong. Don't get me wrong. I think they are very strong. If I'm looking at this objectively, because obviously I'm someone that is very much in favor of using them because I think they're fun to use, obviously. They're really, really fun to use. But I can definitely see how some people may feel like they are too powerful. And to a certain extent, yeah, sure, okay, fine. I can definitely see why you may think that, absolutely. Because they do have the possibility, they do have the potential to inflict massive casualties to enemy combatants, enemy armies, and things like that. But, as I say, I think the only thing you could probably do, and this is the only thing that I don't even know where the firepots come from in regards to the mod list, but so that means I can't say one way or another. I can't say, oh yes, if the modding team at BannerKings or the modding team at RBM or Open Source Armory or whoever, I don't actually know who added this particular item to the mod. You know, if they decided that they wanted to balance the firepots a bit more, then my one suggestion, if they care about what I think, which they probably don't, let's face it, they probably don't, but my suggestion would literally be to reduce the stack size to 3 from 5, and that's it. That would literally be the only thing that I would recommend doing. Because from my perspective right now, they are by default 5. They have a stack amount of 5, and I don't think that this is actually bad. I think this is actually fine, but if you're going to be using these a whole bunch, you're probably going to level up your throwing skill pretty quickly, and as a result, you're then going to be able to spec into a lot of things that will provide you with extra ammunition. For example, I don't even have well prepared at the moment, and that could give me an extra 3. So I would actually have 30 firebombs instead of what I currently have, which is 15. Well, I mean, I have 27, but you know, let's just say that I didn't take any of these perks, right? Any of the +1 ammunition perks or +2 ammunition perks. Let's say I didn't take any of those. I'd have 15 as a base, right? I'd have 15 as a base, which is okay. But if you were to then, scale that back, and each particular stack of firepots would give you 3, then 9 would be your main thing. And then as a total, when you have all of these other things added on to 9, you'd probably have, let's see, because obviously, let's say that I'm using 3 stack once again, because let's take 9 as an example here. So that adds +1 to each one. So let's say that adds another 3, so we then have 12. We have +2 ammunition for throwing weapons when you start a battle mounted. So that's 2, so that's 6 per one, so that's 18 we would have then from 12, right? 12 plus 6 is 18 if I am any good at basic addition. And then otherwise, we then have another 6. So we are then going to be getting, as you might expect, 24. So we would have 24 fire pots, even at 3 per stack, which in my opinion is pretty good. I think that's still amazing, but again, you are indeed taking those perks very specifically to give yourself more fire pots, and it very much depends on if you want to even do that. It's all to do with player choice, of course, but we have taken Epicrotia, which is absolutely fantastic, and I've gone on and on and on about fire pots in this episode, and if that was annoying to you, then I'm very sorry, but I felt like, hey, you know what, maybe it's an idea to actually do a little bit of a discussion about this, because I personally think it's a very interesting thing to talk about, but maybe you don't, and if you don't, then as I say, I'm very sorry about that. We'll return to scheduled programming in the next one, and otherwise, I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.